Welcome everybody to Monarch Family Chiropractic's spinal workshop Tuesday night in January here. And we're talking on a topic that we're going to approach in the way of kind of what I call ready and set and reset. So we talk about resetting the body, but I want to cover it in a couple different ways. Beginning of the year, I think we all go through a component of whether we set New Year's resolutions, whether we believe in those, whether we follow those, how long that lasts. And there's a lot of research that shows that that isn't, depending on the intention behind it, and the pieces we put in place for that to take place, then sometimes those things last for a few weeks or a few months, but we want to really make some lasting changes. And so I think it's appropriate to talk about three components, and I think it's mind, body, and soul. And a component from what we can do in all three of those categories for a reset. And how do we rebuild or how do we reset in those ways? Because as you know, if you're already patients and if you're not, a component that we talk about a lot in chiropractic is thoughts, traumas, and toxins. And those are all the three ways we look at how that affects us. And you probably won't be able to see it with the way our screen share or saver or screen view is right now. So I'm not going to bring the examples out to try to show you. But in our office, in our exam room, where we have a chart that has, in a sense, subluxation in the middle, and the outer perimeters are those three components. So it's really important that our body be supported in all three places. So when we talk about thoughts, it's really the mind component of it, right? That thoughts, traumas, and toxins, an emotional component of thoughts, whether it's high stress, fear, in a scarcity place, different things take our minds out of health and trigger different components in our body, which takes us to the kind of toxic place. We can think of a toxic environment, but it's also toxic from the sense of our chemistry changes when we're happy versus when we're sad, when we're in joy versus or safe versus when we're fearful. So when we're looking at that mind component, the chemistry of that can be what changes and creates a level of toxicity in our system. That can also be a chemical toxicity, like we're around, say, smoke or secondhand smoke, or around other chemistry in our environment, industrial, or in the things we get that are on our foods that we eat. There's lots of different ways chemistry gets into our body. When we talk about thoughts, it's just that, again, that mind component of all things we think about matter. And so when we talk about a reset, it's really important, or if we talk about something like partaking in affirmation, something that we want to have a permanent change with, then we have to do things in succession. We have to do it repetitively to create a pattern, right? Just like we talk about with chiropractic and adjustments. If the nervous system isn't getting a signal often enough, it doesn't always remember what we want it to do. If it gets more outside input that tells it otherwise, right? So it's patterns, and it's patterns in all these different ways. Trauma can be physical, that can be that body component. It can be a car accident, a concussion, whiplash, all changes and alters the way our brain connects to our body and functions, and the input and output that's happening there. And at the same point, traumas can be other components too. And so it can be a lot of past things that we don't necessarily relate to now. It can be a baby's birth and the trauma that can create in a delivery process. It could be micro traumas that happen throughout life. It can be small things we do that we go through day to day, sports injuries that we accumulate over time, or bigger traumas like, whiplash and concussions and things that are very immediate response to our body and immediately shut down the brain, and affect all those components. And when we talk about the soul, it's really what fuels us, what feeds us. And so we'll go into a couple components that I feel like fall in that category of how we can reset. So when we look at it from, I feel like, a holistic mindset, and from that, instead of allopathic, more, or that salutogenic pathway, and how do we best support all the systems from a healthy perspective, then it's about patterns and it's about doing things repetitively. The mind component always makes me think about things that they say what you think about comes about, right? Thoughts and intention are what play out. And so there's a couple things we do in our world in chiropractic and in the community we choose as our family. Sorry, I'm trying to pull some stuff up on my phone so I could show you because I didn't have time to get this into a slide. But one component we do daily that is a really great way to start your day and a really great action to take that supports what you start your day off with and what you think about, what your mind thinks, is something we call in our crew our gas card. And so mine are taped, I realized, to this podium right here because there's some ones that don't change and that just stay here for other reasons. But we take a little index note card. And sometimes it's just typed into my phone into a text that I send to other chiropractors and other people in my community every morning. But it's a great ritual to start in. And so we call it our gas card because it is setting our minds up. It is setting us up for success every day in thinking about three things. The G stands for our gratitude. So what are we grateful for? So when we talk about sometimes a reset that we need, it could also be like, I don't even know what it is I want to work on because we're not always thinking about where we're coming from or where our gratitude lies. And I think it's a great place to start before we start getting into actions or the to-do list. So one column, we just write anything we're grateful for that day. The A does stand for actions. What are the things we're going to do that day? And it's not necessarily always the to-do list, but it's the actions that we maybe put down 3 to 5 so that it's really thinking about actions in the most right thing to be doing. And sometimes that's helping in just prioritizing the day. The third component is S stands for service. So who are we serving? What are we serving? Sometimes that's a word, sometimes that's a multitude of things there. For me, sometimes it's just something I'm doing for myself, or it's an outreach that I'm intentionally putting out for somebody else. And it could be make a phone call to somebody, write a thank you card, touch base with somebody, drop something off, something that doesn't have anything to do with necessarily us, that we are putting into service. So that is a component that is, I think, a great way to support the mind component of it. And how do we reset our day? Sometimes I have to look at that card in the middle of the day, needing a reset after the lunch break, or it's something crazy transpires and it's a good thing to bring us back to where we started the day or where we got into a good state. Another thing that is very helpful for people when they're doing a reset that I was trying to pull up and it wasn't letting me. Give me 1 second here. Oops. Oh, it'll let me add. There we go. And I just wanted to type up something. Because I think sometimes people want to hear different things. But it is talking about affirmations. And there is a way in which you're, again, just resetting the mind and resetting with repetition and pattern interruptions of good things that self-affirm you. So most of the time, an affirmation would start with something like, I am successful. I am strong. I am confident. I am motivated. I am powerful. I am successful. Those whatever fits for you. I am healthy. I am growing clean, healthy cells every second. Whatever component in health or in life that that you want to support and you want to change is a great affirmation to have. And so I think it's making a set of them. And sometimes the best way to come up with them, it needs to be simple. It needs to have something powerful that moves you behind it. And expressing gratitude is one way to do that. And being grateful for things and setting that as an affirmation, it just helps us not sometimes get into our head, right? And do different things that we might fall down a road in, because I think that negative self-talk is more common for many of us to creep in there before we even realize it. So there's tons of different things you can look at under that. But I think it's picking what helps you stay motivated and what are the things that resonate the most for you. And that may start by journaling. And that's another piece for mind and for soul, is setting 3 to 5 minutes. We do a journaling drill with our coaches that we do often, and every single time we do it, it's so powerful and it's so helpful, because many times we just think about, oh, I just don't have time, or I don't have 10 minutes, or I don't have whatever time we think it takes to have to journal. So we do a couple different things, but we set a timer and we literally do work on write everything we're grateful for, the actions that we're going to take, and then the things that we the ways in which we want to serve. And there's ways you can expand on that, and I can give you other tips on that if that's something that you like. But I think starting with just those 3 things, and you just do 1 minute on each of those categories. And so you literally can, it's amazing how much you can write when you're not worried about like grammar and apostrophes and all the things, and just set a timer for 1 minute, and each minute, and then 3 minutes total, or do a minute and a half and 5 minutes total. You'll be amazed how much of a page or more you can put down. And it's just off the cuff, writing. And the more you get in that practice, the easier that component is as well. So there's drills like that I always think it's just going to take too much time to do. And again, you'll be amazed at what 3 minutes will do in supporting you. There's tons of apps and ways in which you can use your affirmations. And I really think listening to them, but listening to yourself say them, is really important when you're trying to change a habit or create a behavior. So I had a really good one up, but I'm not finding it now. So there's a gazillion ones that are powerful. And I think it's really sitting down and doing some journaling so you could see what is the areas that you want to make change in. And if you've done any of that goal setting for 2024, I would remind you that if it's hard to feel like you know where you want to start, then Doc has created an awesome chart in the office. One is a sheet that you may or may not see that says 100 goals for 2024. And it is just a list of 100 lines. And I'm going to grab the other sheet. Or Kayla, will you grab me the one that's up on the wall? And Doc created a sheet that if you haven't been in the office or you haven't made time to take a look at it and take it with you, it's got different categories. So I think it's worth breaking down when you want to do a reset or you want to do kind of a goal setting activity, that you're looking at categories, because 100 can sound super daunting. It's like journaling for 20 minutes to me. To be honest, I'm in the same boat. Sometimes I'd just not do it. But if I could do a couple minutes, I do it consistently and I do it well, and it becomes a better habit and sets off a chain of getting things done that I want to achieve. So categories to consider, it'd be like thinking about doing 10 in these different categories. So instead of just a blank sheet of paper staring at you, I think it'd be great to look at, is it health and fitness? Is it something like more love relationship? Is it more emotional component in life or intellectual component or goal? Or is it more from that soul and spiritual connection vertically that you would like to have a different outcome in 2024? If it's life vision or around something that's more social or more financial. So it's easy to set goals in just different categories, a couple each even. Quality of life and the components of our health in that way. If it's a career move, change, or component, um, even from a perspective of parenting, and what are the kind of goals you want to set in your household or for your kiddos for the next year, depending on their age, or how to support them in setting goals if they're older and they can understand some of that process. To sit down and start this with them, because that's a great thing to start getting their brains used to how to set a goal and how to work towards achieving that. A reset that we talk about with our body clearly from us comes from primarily an adjustment, because we know that if the brain is connected to the body in the most optimal way, um, all the other parts of our body and components and systems run at a more optimal, efficient level. But we used to use a acronym that I'll touch on, that we always use the word fitness, but the last NESS stood for components that is kind of like the chair or the pillar of doing things around your health. So, for the body perspective, it might be, I want to do something, one component that isn't necessarily specific on here, but falls into that category is, nutrition, making a reset there, cleansing and resetting on a goal there. It may be a gym goal. It may be just a way in which we do different things and a goal that we want to accomplish for an activity. Or I have people setting goals now for, bodybuilding competitions, triathlons coming up, as weather gets nicer, all kinds of things. So when we look at the word fitness, I always use that N for reminding people that N stands for like the neurology. If the brain and the neurology of the body isn't functioning, that is really hard to set goals and achieve them in all of their facets of the body and the level we want our health to be at, to maintain and do some of those extraordinary things, but even just to do all of our regular things. A body is less stressed when the neurology is fine-tuned, and that those patterns are fine-tuned. The E stands for exercise. I mean, we know the body has to have movement. It has to have, the heart's our biggest muscle. It has to have cardiovascular heart pumping activity happening 15, 20 minutes minimum a day, but 15 to 30 optimally. And it doesn't have to be crazy intense, but the heart rate has to get up there. And then again, we need, there's muscle component for bone density. We need muscle for lots of functions in our body. And it's not necessarily at any kind of crazy level of competing for something, but even just for dense, strong bones, we need to be doing body resistant weights. The other S stands for your spine. And again, we always talk about, it's hard to strengthen a poor positioned structure. That doesn't really make sense. It's like putting the cart before the horse. So, if your spine and your structure is in good alignment, then it can just tolerate loads upon it, and movements upon it that won't create injury and that don't put more stress and damage into it. And so that is where chiropractic, it fits in from the physical body perspective of, our structure and movement and position. And the last S stands for sleep. There's a component of, it's really hard to do a ready, set, reset, or for our body to really be in that place of healing if the body's not getting rest, right? And so we talk about that in a lot of different ways, but I think it's really good to touch back on, we may have been coming out of a phase of lack of sleep when we have holidays and then holiday parties and vacation and time off, and we're out of a routine of maybe going to bed at the same time or going to bed earlier because we don't have to get up as early, kids on break on different routine, sports maybe not happening in the same rhythm because there's a break. So our sleep and our circadian rhythm is super important for healing and just staying on track. So finding a set time that you want to do some goal setting, or you want to do some of these resets, is really important, that we just pick a time of the day and that's when we do it. So if it's getting up 15, 20 minutes earlier, so we have a few minutes of breathing work and stretching, we have a few minutes of journaling for our resets, and we have a few minutes to maybe just even do that gas card and write down our gratitude and our actions and our service for the day, and just create the habits. And then I really feel like the way you're going to be more of in a body reset and an overall reset is to pick, I would say, 3 to 5 affirmations that really resonate with you based on what you write on your cards. What are the goals that you pick? And it might just be, again, worth, if you're not sure what that is, then just journaling or picking up one of these sheets or just writing at home and seeing if you can do at least 3 to 5 in several of those categories. And then see where you feel more drawn to when you just have time to put that pen to paper. So I wanted to go more that route in approaching our ready, set, reset, or our body reset, because it comes from so many different avenues. And the last thing I'll share with you, which again, I will just have you, easiest way, if you want this information, you want this link, is to message the girls at the front desk, just at our regular phone number, the 720-456-7469. You can text that number. When you do, it'll pop up on Jesse's computer, and she can share with you if you're interested in this link. But there is an opportunity this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, for, let's see if I can get it to pull up, a way that may really feel supportive to you to reset for the year and do it in a big way. As I'm sure many of you know, I don't know if there's anybody on our planet, unless you live under a rock, who doesn't know who Tony Robbins is. He puts on amazing seminars all over the place, all over the country, all over the world. And he is doing a 3-day series this Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I think our time zone, it is noon to 3. It is free. And I think you just have to get registered before Thursday morning. And there's ways to upgrade stuff and be virtually having a Zoom link and being able to see and have some more interaction. But it's a way to get a lot of information and kickstart. I mean, I feel like he was kind of the guru of in this last, decade or two with teaching people how to set affirmations. And if and things like what a power hour is, and taking that down to 10 minutes, and teaching breath work, and teaching how to really come into figuring out what you want for kind of, in a sense, an extraordinary life, in making and setting some goals and making changes. Trying to find the most recent information that I can give you. Okay, so Doc will post it in comments of the YouTube. And I just had this pulled up, but I think you may just be able to go to timetorisesummit.com. So TIMETORISESUMMIT.com. And so what they are putting on is this 3-day, 3-hour a day ability to tap into all these different components in, there we go, this might be the one, making breakthroughs. So breakthroughs, a moment in time when impossible becomes possible, setting, goals for a future, and really looking at what areas of your life do you need a breakthrough in. So sometimes that's the process, is we get stuck sometimes in making some resets because we're not really sure where we want to reset or where to start. So it talks about how you can write down some goals before it's starting, but during the summit, what they're going to go through is accelerating that journey. So they're going to go through a 7-step process of a path to achieve rapid results, and just kind of verify that you're on the path that's meant for you, or that's the most purposeful to you. Design a 2024 results plan. So it's going to take you from kind of those broad intentions and to more of to concrete actions, right? So I have these intentions, I see where I want to set some goals, but what are the action steps to take for the most right thing, right? For the top 1 or 2, and so on. And really just kind of setting the intention right so that you have the confidence that you feel you've got the steps in place to kind of stay committed. Because I think that's the biggest thing with resetting is, do we stay committed enough to achieve the goal? Let's see, there's another component about discovering an identity shift. So it's really empowering your authentic self, and it's breaking through barriers where it's sometimes hard to figure out what those are. There's a science to growth, and there's a piece in there that I read about this week prepping for this that really, if you can nail in how you want to approach that growth, then it's really shows how you can exponentially kind of take that at a speed and a pace that you want to. So there's a ton of other information on it on the site, but Time to Rise Summit is the name of the summit that's taking place this week. And as I said, it is a free seminar that I have never seen offered before by how he's doing it more virtually this way. So if that is a component that sounds like something you're interested in, you have a couple hours a day to tap in and remote in. And they will send you the information once you do. It will give you options to kind of upgrade some things that are at a small cost, but you don't have to. And so I think it just depends on how much you want to put into it and how you best engage or interact. So hopefully that gives you a really way to take some things that you're wanting to do, have some small ways you can do it daily. If you really want to accelerate with what you want to do in this next year, I can't imagine you wouldn't get something out of 9 hours or some version of that over those 3 days with somebody like Tony Robbins. So hopefully that gives you some great tips and tools. And if there's anything else we can do to support you in the office in that way, or things we are doing in our office after some really intentional learning at our seminar this last weekend, then share those with us at your next visit, share us with us at your, next exam, and let's help support you in the most right things for you in 2024. So thank you for being with us tonight. I appreciate you. We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 5:45. And as I said, Doc will post this tomorrow morning and the links will be in the post. So share with everyone. It is not only for certain people. It's anybody who registers before it starts. So we look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for sending us your takeaway.
Dr. Kristen.
Yes.
Just
you guys, I can never usually hear you when I'm in. Yeah.
I just unmuted. I just looked up the link and it says that there's 2 different times that are going to be available each day, 12 to 3 p.m. and 3 to 6 p.m. daily.
Oh, okay. So I didn't see any of that when I registered, and it just had the set time in different time zones, obviously, for that, for what would be for us noon to 3. So it so that's great. Maybe they opened it up.
Excuse me. The 12 to 3 is correct. The other time was Eastern. So let's see, that would again like be noon to 3, because they're giving it Eastern time. So it would be noon to 3 both. Oh, never mind. They're giving
they're probably giving specific, Pacific and Eastern. That would create
which is
gap.
The same. I'm sorry, my mistake.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I know it was listed differently, but they did give multiple time zones, so it might have seemed like they were offering it at different times. But right, I think it is just 1 3-hour block, and then obviously that's different
correct
where you live. Awesome. Well, thank you for clarifying. Reading it and being able to clarify, because I didn't know if they had opened something up, like if they had taken to capacity what they wanted to do virtually, and maybe they opened up another time slot. So, and he has guest speakers that are part of this, that are people that have trained and taught with him, that are gurus in that field, that he's bringing into this too. So this isn't actually just him. So I think just some really excellent resources at our fingertips. So I hope you guys take part in some of it and share with us what you got out of it. We'll be doing the same over here on this end. So good night for now.